Thanks for calling ABC Credit Union.
I just want to talk to a person.
For customer service, please press 1.
Talk to a person?
For locations and hours, please press 2.
Talk to a person.
To speak to an agent at any time during this call, please press 0 or stay on the line.
Welcome to CX Without the BS. Now, here are your hosts, Tom Milligan and Brian Nichols.
Welcome to CX Without the BS. I am your host, Brian Nichols, and I am joined by my forever co-host, Tom Milligan. Tom, how you doing?
Fan-freaking-tastic, Brian. It is always great to see you, my friend.
Likewise, my friend, likewise. And Tom, we have a very special episode for today. It's a little bit different than what folks have come to know and love on CX Without the BS. No guests today. It's just you and I, and we're going to talk about some of the past episodes we've had here as we've kicked things off over the past month and what we've learned. But before we get there, I know you and I, we've been talking off air here a lot, and this is a little bit of a turn away from CX folks, but we want to just talk about where Tom and I are personally, because we have both been going through, and granted, my story is a little bit more dated, but Tom personally right now going through some weight loss journeys. So Tom, talk to us about that. What's been going on in that world for folks maybe who haven't heard from you in a while? Now they're seeing you on CX Without the BS, and you've lost like almost 100 pounds. What's going on there?
Well, you know, it's a great, I think it's a fun story, and I, you know, we want to hear yours too. But yeah, I've struggled with weight since I was a teenager. I mean, even when we were in school and people would say, let's play shirts and skins basketball. I would.
You're preaching to the choir here, Tom. This is hitting home. This is hitting home.
Yeah, you're just like, well, as long as I'm on the shirts team.
Always.
And I look back now and I think, what the hell was my problem? I mean, everybody knew I was fat. Taking my shirt off wasn't going to make me any more or less fat than I already was, but I always was so uncomfortable with that. Well, fast forward, I've spent literally the last 40 years struggling with that. Ups and downs. There were times that I got in great shape. I would get down to the 220s or so and then, let it go. And then I'd get back and I've spent my life struggling with it. And last year, I just thought, you know what? I'm 55 years old and I've struggled with this my whole life. Fuck that. And I just decided to take the plunge. And so in December of 23, so 7 months ago, wow. I got on a flight to San Diego. The clinic from Tijuana picked me up, drove me across the border. That was on a Monday morning. 2.5 days later, Wednesday afternoon, they took me back to the airport and I flew home with 90% of my stomach removed after having a gastric sleeve operation done. And since then, like you said, I've lost about 88 pounds, almost 90 pounds.
It's a while.
I work out like crazy now. Right behind me, you can't see it because of my blurry background, but I've got a weight bench here in my house. I do a lot of weightlifting. I do a lot of cardio, but the main thing is that when 90% of your stomach is gone, you can't eat a whole heck of a lot.
I would imagine not.
So you're forced to eat healthy because there's just no room. I mean, if you want to eat ice cream, well, you better plan for it because you got to eat your protein and your greens and stuff like that. And so it kind of forces you to do the right thing. So yeah, here I am. I'm not trying to lose any more weight. I've reached whatever goal weight I had. I'm under 200 pounds, which is, I've literally not been that since junior high. And it's a lot of fun. I've enjoyed it. Sometimes you go out to a nice restaurant and you wish you could order more because, it's so good, but you can only eat 3 or 4 ounces.
Right.
But other than that, you know what? No complaints. I love it. And I think one of the things you said right before we got on the air was, it doesn't matter how you lose your weight or how you get healthy, whether you do it my way or your way, which I definitely want you to tell us, just get it done. So tell your story.
Yeah, no. So Tom, my story is it's not similar necessarily, but it definitely rhymes with your story. Just the same exact mentality. I grew up having, just carrying the extra weight around all my life. I was super, super self-conscious. I still carry that self-consciousness today, believe it or not. Like, just you have this perception, right, of like, oh, I'm the big fat guy. I'm 6'5", so I'm tall, but I was 385 pounds. I was morbidly obese. But I mean, I say, but I mean, I was very overweight, but I carried it better. But I knew what was underneath the hoodie and the triple XL t-shirt. So around, it was like my junior year, I think it was, or so, of high school. I go to my annual physical. My doctor, she just laid down the reality. She's like, Brian, you got to lose some weight if you want to make it to your 30s. And that just was, it was such a weird thing to hear out loud, because when you're a kid, you don't really imagine like the end. It's just like, oh yeah, whatever, that'll happen down the road. I'm an old man. But like, no, this was something that kind of it slapped me across the face. And just elephant in the room too, I was miserable. Even though I'd put on a really great persona,
Right.
deep down inside, you still have that like, I know I'm not where I need to be. And it impacts so many different areas of life. Like you mentioned shirts and skins, your dating life, like all that kind of stuff. And as a kid growing up, like that's right when you're trying to discover who you are and like learn what you bring to the table. And I'm like, this is what I bring to the table, 380 pounds of fun. But for 2 years, I basically just did a complete life transformation. I started working out, eating right. And for me, so I'm from upstate New York, I didn't want to go to the gym because I was so embarrassed by my physical being. I went out and I walked the roads, which were big, empty country roads in the back of my home area. Walked the river, walked back every morning. It was like a 6-mile round trip. And over about a year or so, just doing strict cardio, I lost around 100 pounds.
Wow.
And then the next year was like just a super transformation year. I lost another 80 pounds while at the same point in time starting to do weightlifting and getting down to from 385 down to like 200. And that was huge for me.
Incredible.
I was like running a 5K every day. And then I found the passion of weightlifting. I love weightlifting now. So ever since then, I became an avid weightlifter. I love doing bench. I love doing squats. I love doing all of it. I got up to around like 265, 270. That's my playing weight now. And I go to the gym 6 days a week, do cardio, do weightlifting. And of course, the hardest part is the diet, as you mentioned. So when I go to the restaurants and I have the good food, I can eat as much as I want, but I have to really be careful, because my biggest area was I would eat and eat and eat, and I could just eat forever. It wasn't I was eating bad food. It's just I could eat a lot of it. So for me, that was the biggest thing, was portion control. And then also I was a very emotional eater. So whenever I would get happy, you'd celebrate, you'd go out and eat food, or when I was sad, you'd go and find your comfort food. And that for me also was something I really had to work on, was just working on the emotional part. So yeah, fast forward 15 years, I've been at my playing weight now for 10 plus years, and I'm feeling the best I've felt in ever, really.
That's great. Just to put a cap on it, you mentioned that you've never felt better, and it affects so many parts of your life. I grew up in Utah, so I skied 2 or 3 days a week all winter long, and my knees have paid the price. And so I've spent the last literally 25 years in pain. My knees ached 24 hours a day. And I just got to the point where there was nothing I was ever going to be able to do about it, shy of knee replacement.
Yeah.
Well, you drop 90 pounds. Guess what? My knees
That's 90
don't hurt
pounds
anymore.
off your knees. That's right.
I literally I actually ran on a treadmill a couple of weeks ago for the first time in 20 years, because I don't dare run, but I do now. And it's a crazy thing. So anyway, not necessarily CX without the BS related, but I got to tell you, that's why I think of Brian as my brother from another mother, because, we've been through this together, not really together, but we've both been through it. And so when we found that out about each other, I think we were both just, wow.
Yeah. No. And I mean, there's a lot of other stuff you and I, we didn't realize we have a lot of commonality. So it makes it a lot easier. But the weight loss part, I mean, that is something when you go through it, like there's no really words to put into the effort, the attention to detail, the emotional drain that it pulls on you. Like it's a lot. And I mean, just to go through it and to be successful on the other side, and then to maintain that success. Like Tom, you've done a complete life change, and you're going to have this success carry forward. Whereas, I mean, elephant in the room too. My grandmother, she morbidly obese, and she had gastric bypass done not once, but twice. And she failed with it each time, and she gained all the weight back. And she didn't make any changes in her life. And that was a big, red flag for me when I was given the option, do it the normal way or do it the surgical way. And I was like, let's do it the normal way, because grandma didn't have success going that way because she didn't make any changes. You got the surgery done, but you made the life changes along the way. And that sometimes is 100% the hardest part. that speaks to, I think, also why you and I we get along so well, because when you do make that change, you change so much about yourself, right? Like you start taking care of yourself instead of just focusing on the physical health. You're also focusing on your mental health and your mental well-being, because it all comes together. And I just think it makes you a better person just across the board when you feel healthier.
You know, the only challenge that I have now is the fact that I have now gone through, in 7 months, I'm on my 3rd wardrobe.
Yep. Burlington Coat Factory becomes your best friend in the interim.
and this shirt right here, those of you who are watching this on YouTube or whatever, you can see that it's a pretty loose shirt. When I bought this shirt 3 months ago, I could barely put it on. And so there you go.
Wow. Yeah, we were just joking. Like, this shirt I bought back a couple years ago. I mean, you can kind of see if you're watching the video. I swim in it now. And that was because when I bought this shirt, I had been doing a bulk, and I had gone up like another 10, 15 pounds. And now I'm doing a cut for the summertime, and it just goes gone. But yeah, this has been a fun talk, Tom, about fitness and health. Thank you for joining me for the podcast.
Hey, you betcha, my friend. Yeah.
Shall we talk about CX? Let's do that. I know people are joining us because, CX without the BS, but we had to have some fun, get to know each other a little bit better.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Let's talk about CX. I think what we want to do today, right? We're just going to kind of review.
Yeah.
Let's talk. So let's talk about Michael Del Signore.
I have mentioned, so for folks who aren't super familiar with my role here at Sharpen, so I work both in our outbound sales leadership as well as in the channel with Tom. And when I meet folks in the channel for the first time, and I organically mention CX without the BS, and you can just see, okay, that's cool. And I say, yeah, our first guest was MDS, Michael Del Signore, and their eyes light up. They're like, okay, got to check out that episode. So Michael's episode was incredible. And Michael's just an awesome dude.
Yeah, he really is. And I loved some of he kicked us off just right. Because, the whole point of this show is the CX without the BS, because there is so much bullshit. And he cut right through it. He was the first person to swear on our show.
Before us.
I know. I love it. It was fantastic. I loved it. And he's such a good guy. And I'm going to try and quote him. I think what he said was, if I see another company just attach the letters AI to their name, I'm going to throw up.
Yeah. Verbatim. Yep.
And I again, if it's not verbatim, it's pretty damn close. And he, he's nailed it. Just because everybody is talking about AI doesn't mean that you, whoever you are an AI supplier.
Or that your customers need AI for the services you bring to the table. Like we've had a few guests here in the show, and I know we're going to talk about Pam's episode, but just throwing AI at something and saying that solves that, like there is no easy button, right? There is none of those. What is it? Office Max, Office Depot. That was easy. Like that doesn't exist just by slapping AI on a problem, or like, oh, I'm going to save money by getting rid of a person and giving this to AI. It actually will add more headaches.
You're right. Now, I can't remember if I mentioned this on this show, but years and years ago, when CRM was the buzzword, that was the AI of the 80s and the 90s. Everybody said CRM is going to revolutionize, the contact center or the call center space way back then. And I remember this lady, her name's Maggie Klenke. She was very famous in the call center consulting world at the time. And I went to this class that she was teaching at this trade show about implementing CRM. It was standing room only. I mean, it was seriously, everybody was like, oh my gosh, this is the thing.
CRM. Whew.
Yeah, exactly. And she said, before you implement CRM, get your shit in order, get your processes down, because all CRM is going to do is speed up your existing processes. So if your processes suck, all you're going to do is speed them up and piss your customers off faster.
You're going to suck faster.
Yeah, exactly. And so when we think about Pam's episode, we've kind of crossed over into Pam's episode here, where she told the story about her horrific experience, just a horrible experience that was literally caused by a shitty deployment of AI and chatbots, basically. Mm-hmm. And what they did is they pissed off Pam thoroughly and quickly.
Yes.
And it unnecessarily too.
And not only was she a customer, she was an advocate, right? Like, and that I think is sometimes the worst part, is that it's not just somebody that would buy their products, it's somebody who was enthusiastically promoting those products. And now not only is she going to be pissed off, she's going to tell everybody she was on our show about the experience she had. And it's not a good one. And the result of the entire interaction was not actually taken care of. The leadership at this company continued to drop the ball. And it was because all of this just, hey, well, let's throw AI at this. This should fix it.
Right. See, and that was some serious bullshit. And, you know, Michael's, when we asked him what the biggest pile of bullshit is that he had seen all year, it was that, I believe it was, I'm paraphrasing, but the answer was that AI is for everyone.
Yeah.
I mean, he said that's just bullshit. And I couldn't agree more. And then if you then use the transitive property to get to Pam's episode, not only is it not for everybody, but those that choose to deploy it, you better know why and how and how to really work it, or you're going to just screw yourself over again.
Yeah. Well, and that's exactly, it kind of leads into our next episode we had with Andy Bird. I think we're talking about creating those positive customer experiences, right, Tom? I mean, and Andy, you know, so Andy is the VP of CX over at Avant. And first of all, Andy was an awesome guest as well. I think all of our guests have been pretty darn awesome guests.
Yes, they have.
Andy talking about not just how you need to be able to build positive customer experiences, but Andy went through and he nipped in the bud a lot of those myths about customer experiences too.
Right. Well, he talked about being on hold for 20 hours. I mean,
a day being on hold for a day. It just,
and by the way, if you remember, he was just trying to buy 4x4 parts.
Yep.
So he must have really needed those parts. Let's start with that. But the second thing is that, see, that problem could have been solved, obviously, in so many different ways. Staffing is one thing. You know, I can't, if they're a 24/7 contact center and they let him sit there for 20 hours, you know, why the hell didn't you have a callback system? I mean, that's 20-year-old technology, 30-year-old technology that does not need AI. It doesn't take AI to do callbacks.
Exactly. These are literally like, and this goes back to what we were talking about with the implementing of AI, is you see, and we talked about this with Andy, right? Crawl, walk, run. And how often do we see people, they're like, all right, run. And they haven't gotten to the crawl walk part yet. And actually, I think back to, you were talking about the CRM part. So my old company, and I talk about them a lot because they're great people, Stratus IP. Tom, we did just that. So we were going to put our CRM in place, and we held back because we wanted to make sure that we were able to bring everything over properly. So I mean, we were taking notes in like Excel documents and stuff like that. But it wasn't until we were 100% sure that we were good to go from a systems and processes standpoint that we put things into the CRM. And I'll tell you what, like the one rule that Mike always had, the CEO, was, I don't want this to ever slow you down. If it slows you down, tell me, because we are at Stratus a sales and support organization. And if the CRM is at all slowing you down with doing more sales or slowing you down from supporting a customer, it's getting in the way and we need to fix it. So that was just thinking of that and seeing how that rhymes here with the CX industry. It speaks volumes because at the end of the day, we are all doing something in customer service, customer satisfaction, customer experience, whether you're the customer facing folks or even the folks behind the scenes, you still have that role of creating a positive customer experience. So that, I think, it speaks to why you need to make sure these processes are done properly and in the right order. Don't just say, hey, here's a new technology, it's going to help us soar to new heights, and then you just crash and burn because you didn't do the right things to start out.
Yeah, and you know, going along those exact same lines, the crawl, walk, run concept. I'm not going to try and put a percentage on it, but I know that a significant portion of contact centers out there have not deployed literally 90s technology about just screen pops, just what is now should be table stakes CTI. Yeah. Yet they're out there shopping around for AI. So I think it's incumbent upon us as suppliers. So I am calling on all CX suppliers, including the partner community, that if your customer it doesn't have a decent CRM, or they're keeping their notes in Excel and they're not screen popping customer information, they're probably not the best candidate for advanced AI solutions. let's slowly, or not slowly necessarily, but let's at least bring them up to the 2000s in their technology before we try to put them into the 2020s. And to me, that I think that's just it's a responsible way for the CX space to move customers forward. Because if they, just like Pam's skincare company, that's not the name of the company, by the way, the skincare company from whom Pam buys her skincare products, they clearly went from nothing to AI everything, and they've screwed themselves. And I think that, I mean, shame on them, shame on them, shame on their vendor, shame on their partner if the partner sold it to them, shame on all of us that were involved in that.
Yeah, no, here. Oh, and by the way, this actually, I don't know, you didn't know that you did this on purpose, Tom, but you did a perfect segue to our conversation with Charlie. Charlie Newark French, the CEO of CX without the BS, CEO of Sharpen, excuse me. I'm looking at our logo. I'm like, God, that's a good looking logo. Anyways, no, so Charlie's on the show, and he is the CEO of Sharpen CX. And we were talking about, I mean, one of the things that just popped up here, right, is this idea that not only can AI solve all of our problems, that AI is going to take over. AI is going to replace humans. It's going to get rid of the need for Beverly at the front desk to answer any phone calls. And the reality is that AI is not going to just come in and wipe out the human engagement in not just customer experience, but across the board, but rather AI is actually going to help increase the number of butts in seats and help them do their jobs better. That right there, I thought that was one of the coolest things to talk about, because, and we use the example of radiologists in that episode, where the idea was 10 years ago, AI is going to replace all these radiologists out there. And now we're seeing, nope, it's more radiologists than ever. And they're the ones who are using AI that are successful. Same thing in the contact center industry. Absolutely.
And again, and by the way, I guess I shouldn't admit that I didn't do that segue on purpose, because I'm a professional, Brian. I'm a professional. Of course I did that on purpose. And by the way, that's some bullshit right there. But if you take what Charlie was saying and then think back to Pam's episode. So I don't know how many people were in this contact center before the AI deployment and after. I have no idea. I mean, you guys who listen to that episode know as much as we do about it. But if you think about it, Pam said that she, at that time, was at least 50 emails into an experience. And to our knowledge, only one of them involved a human. So one could say, oh my gosh, look at that. We just eliminated 98% of human involvement. But the reality is that 98% of those emails were unnecessary. And so all you've done is spent 98% of your effort, whether it's human effort or technology effort, pissing off a very valuable customer. And so, like Charlie said, yeah, did we replace humans? Well, no, we still needed the human, and the human still couldn't fix it, by the way, because AI took over. It's the Terminator. They became self-aware and took over from the human.
If you don't correct this order, I am going to need to cancel my order. Cancel order, and then canceled her order.
Yeah, exactly. Shitty AI, and Charlie's 100% right. And again, the radiologist thing, is that a CX thing? I guess to a certain extent, but it's indicative of, I mean, like you say, it's not the contact center space or the CX space, but it rhymes with it. It's adjacent. It's CX adjacent.
And by the way, Tom, just one thing. I mean, the weight loss conversation we had at the beginning of this episode, it actually does tie in here. And here's how. I know. Get ready for this. I can almost guarantee that the folks who put in the AI solution for Pam's company that she had reached out to for skincare, I'm sure that in their head, they're thinking, dude, this is going to save us tens of thousands of dollars a year, because if they just replaced, Susie Q at the front desk there, who was answering calls and emails, maybe making, I don't know, $50K a year, let's just say. And they're like, we can get this AI tool for, just pennies on the dollar. Right. Absolutely. Right. What is that? That's called, right. And that's called time preference. And here, well, I'm going to put my economics hat on here for a second. We talk about in economics, time preference, where you make a short-term gain, but you're not really thinking about the long-term implications of that. So what happened, right? Sure, you saved thousands of dollars up front, but what happened? It led to a negative customer experience, which then led to customers being pissed off, which led to now you're losing revenue. So you have this initial like, oh, this is going to help us do so great. And now, oh, just kidding. We lost all of our customers, just like in the whole idea of, and here I'm just going to pick on the Ozempic era that we're in right now. People who are like, hey, if I take this magic supplement or pill, I'm going to lose all this weight really, really fast. That's awesome. Short-term gain, time preference. What were we finding though? That it's going right after your muscle mass. You're losing muscle with Ozempic. And actually, if you go even deeper, some folks are having a lot of issues, digestional issues. Their stomachs are getting holes in them, right? So sure, you lost all that weight, short-term gain, but you look at the long-term implications, maybe it's not the best for your overall health. And going right into how AI impacts the customer experience. If you're just going to go ahead and slap AI on that, sure, you feel great thinking like, oh, I got this solution that's going to save us money, immediately respond to customers. This is a no-brainer, only to find that if you didn't do it right, down the road, it's going to lead to so many unintended consequences that you're going to be paying for the years to come. Look at that, Tom. That's all being a professional.
Yeah, that's being a professional. But
tying that knot.
Unintended consequences and unforeseen, because and I'm not knocking anybody who's doing Ozempic. If you're doing Ozempic, whatever, do what you got to do. I'm it worries me to think about like 5 years from now, are all these people, their kneecaps going to fall off, or some other weird side effect that they couldn't have predicted.
You ever heard that, or ever see that Spider-Man meme where it's the three cartoon Spider-Mans and they're pointing at each other because they look the same?
No,
maybe. No, here, you go ahead, and I'm just going to pull this up.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what. So as Brian's pulling that up, we're going to ask each other. We want to talk a little bit more about Charlie, because I think we asked Charlie what the biggest pile of bullshit is that he's seen. And I loved his response, because he talked about marketing.
Yes, really quick. So that's a good holding off point. Just talking about the unintended consequences. This Spider-Man meme, it's supposed to be like, we're all the same. And the meme template for this here was my father full of lead, my grandfather full of asbestos, me full of microplastics, pointing at each other, because we all have our issues, right? But that speaks to, back in the day, asbestos was a no-brainer for fire retardant. Lead was a no-brainer for just adding in to name the household, or plumbing, paint, anything, right? And then microplastics. I mean, Keurig machines, water bottles, like, they're everywhere. That's the reason why I have this Hydro Flask now, because I kind of saw the writing on the wall a few years ago. And I'm like, ooh, that's a little sketchy. And now they're seeing like microplastics. Okay, maybe a little TMI, but like, they're finding microplastic in men's testicles, Tom. Like, and that's leading to a lot of the infertility issues we're having right now, because men are full of plastic. And
I did not know that.
Oh, it's horrifying. Yeah, check that out. So anyways, yes, it is. And by the way, how about that for a segue as well? I mean, you talk about unintended consequences of things that are marketed as being great solutions, to Charlie's point.
Right. That marketing is bullshit. Not all marketing is bullshit. Let me rephrase that. But the marketing about AI, the marketing in the CCaaS space, and it's not even relegated to the CCaaS space. Marketing in general, you have to really dig deep. And I think one of Charlie's points was that, I can't remember the name of the company that he worked for. Hyperscience, where he said that people would go to the website and it would take 30 minutes to even figure out what the hell they do, if they ever got there. And so
Office Space, what would you say you do here?
Exactly.
Yep.
Well, Bob, as little as possible.
Bob?
Yeah. Hey, Bob.
Yep.
But I think Charlie's point, I mean, when he came on board here, one of his top priorities was to make sure that our marketing wasn't bullshit. And if you go to the sharpencx.com website, and I've told everybody my favorite line in that whole website just says, call, contact centers that don't suck. And it's there you go. So literally the first line of our website, what it is that our company does. And we do our best to not have bullshit on the website. That's one of the reasons we both love working for Sharpen, is because there's no bullshit here.
Yep.
So anyway.
No, and by the way, just to piggyback on that, when you look at some of our competitors in the market, they are, if anything, just a pile of bullshit when it comes to the marketing fluff. I mean, there's one competitor that we talked about in that episode with Charlie. We'll leave them nameless at this point, but you look at their website, there is literally a tab for AI, and it is AI vomit. I mean, it is everywhere. And it's a little overwhelming, but also it's a lot of bullshit, right? Because we know, like Tom, we're in this industry. We know exactly what we can and can't do, what can be done versus what sounds like a pipe dream. A lot of that stuff is pipe dreams. Like, it's not real life. It's like, this would be nice to have, or this might happen down the road, but we're going to advertise as though we can do it right now. And that is a bunch of bullshit, because you're presenting yourself as something that you're not. And that's also, on the flip side, why I really do love working for Sharpen, because we're not pretending. We are creating contact centers that people love, or at least don't hate as much. And we're using usable AI. We're not going out and just throwing AI on everything. We're saying, where can AI win, right? And then doubling down on those specific areas versus just tossing AI at the wall and hoping some of the AI sticks.
Absolutely. And by the way, even though we aren't naming that company,
Y'all know.
everyone knows who it is.
Y'all know who it is.
Y'all know. So, but you're welcome for not naming you guys. Okay.
Very much so.
Enough,
by the way,
bashing.
Yeah, and we do have one other episode that we wanted to also talk about, and that was an awesome conversation we had with John Heaps, who, Tom, I didn't realize was like a BFF of yours from yesteryear. And gosh, it was not only great to get to know John, but to hear where John has really, I mean, he is the channel godfather, right? Like, he has had a finger in, name the different areas in the CX space over the past 20, 30 years. And he's been a really big player, and he's seen a lot of BS as well.
Yeah. And he's not only one of my closest friends, he's a mentor, because his integrity, his honesty, is just unmatched. And you can always know that John is going to be on the up and up with you. But he has seen it all. And anyway, I think that those of you guys who haven't seen, well, I hope you go back. If you haven't seen all of these episodes, I hope you go back and watch or listen to them wherever you get your podcast. But John, I think, was the first one that came with a purpose-built solution. Everybody else is more of a generalist, but John came with a purpose-built solution. Not that we're advertising for it, but Sonus is a really cool technology.
Yes.
That, if deployed properly, and this is one of those that I don't think this is the AI that's going to screw up your customer service like Pam's experience, but this is the kind of AI that's truly usable.
Yes.
Not for everyone, but it's built for a specific purpose. And quite frankly, it is earth-shattering. It is life-changing.
Here. Yeah. And the fact, so, I mean, I'm not going to spoil the episode. Please go check it out. But the noise cancellation, sure, that's one piece of the conversation. But being able to neutralize accents and really democratize the contact center environment from not just a technology standpoint, but now you're going into geography standpoint, right? Like, right. That's pretty darn cool, because we all know one of the main roadblocks that the customer experience industry faces is when you start to have that language or that culture barrier. And this is helping not only address that, but also it's giving the agents some like, what's the word? It's
some
giving
defense.
Some defense, and it's letting them be themselves. It's letting them be authentic. It's letting them be genuine. Like, you don't have to hide your accent or whatnot when you're on the phone with somebody and you're constantly thinking, like, did I go too far into my native accent or not? Like, you can just be yourself, speak how you would speak, and let the AI do the rest. That's pretty darn cool. And dare I say, it's going to be a game changer.
Yeah. I think, again, I've seen the technology in practice, and completely blown away, just astounded that it's actually real. So going back to what you were saying right before we talked about John, is we know what can be done,
right?
But at the same time, AI is pushing those limits. And so we accept that what can be done today won't be what can be done tomorrow. We get it. But we're not going to go from, 1% to 100% overnight. They're going to be baby steps along the way. So that's what I think about.
From the Model T to spaceship in a week, y'all would be like, that's going to be a little silly. But when you see the progression of Model T to better car to airplane to help, like, now we're actually able to talk about this. You see the progression, and you're building on something versus just like, hey, we're going to shoot our shot and hope it works.
Yep.
I think that kind of is something we've learned over the past month and a half at this point, is that it is important to really focus on what's already working and why is that working. The why behind it is so important too, because if it just like, oh yeah, that looks cool, and it disappears. And I'm going back to the Ozempic thing. I got a feeling, Tom, that's going to be kind of what's going to happen there, but that's my hypothesis. But I fear that it looks really good right now, and it might lead to some unintended consequences that we don't even consider down the road. Whereas if you were to build upon something like a healthy diet and exercise routine, then the things you add into that are only going to help you do better, because you already have the right principles in place, right? The right actions in place. So I know that's kind of a weird way that we were able to tie in our weight loss stories into literally everything today. I didn't expect that. I know you didn't expect that when we were sitting here talking about the episode. We're like, you know what? We should talk about our weight loss for some reason. And then it just turned into a theme for the show. So
Absolutely.
That's what we do here at CX without the BS.
And that's why Brian is a professional.
to paraphrase Ferris Bueller's Day Off, I'm a professional. Professional what? Yeah, I'll digress. Tom Milligan, we are sadly at the point of the show where we must wrap up and say goodbye. So any final words or final thoughts for the audience as we wrap up CX Without the BS this week?
As always, guys, we love hearing from you. Reach out. We'd love to hear from you. Make some comments on the show, rate, review, share, suggest.
Yes. And hey, if you head down below in the comments and let us know some of the biggest piles of BS you've seen in customer experience, yeah, we might have you on the show, or at the very least talk about your comment here. So head down below on the YouTubes, let us know your thoughts. And with that, it's Brian Nichols signing off here for Tom Milligan on CX Without the BS. We'll see you next week.